that just overall they couldn't get the draft to work in their favor. What do Motivate need to do differently? Do they need to make it more simplistic of a draft, or do they need to was it just a one-off kind of game?
I think it's just down to execution. It felt like a one-off. It felt like they didn't expect New Esports to play the way they did. Maybe some of the hero choices as well didn't help out. I think Fearless, he's the kind of player who really does want to play Fearless. So in that case, you've got to give him a mid-hero that doesn't want to farm. Like Storm can play aggressive, but you will need to pull back to build into that Orchid, to build into the Bloodstone. And he was just way too aggressive. He was up in front trying to get some really far forward farm to buy space, but he was constantly punished. They need to give the guys something that can just get off the moment you hit 6 a lot faster. Still, you've seen the draft coming out already, and Trust, they open with a Void to take out the combo with a Phoenix, and they do pick up the Snapfire to deal with a Phoenix as well, but I don't have the best of confidence with a Faces Void first pick. It's so prone to being counter-picked. This Venge follow-up for New Esports means that when you throw the Chrono out, you have to catch the Venge. There's no two ways about it, and Void against Phoenix is also a bit of a mixed bag. Like, if the egg goes off while you're in the Chrono, then it's detrimental to you. You have to make the choice. Can I stay and kill the hero in the Chrono, or do I have to run? There's a lot to think about now for MG.Trust when dropping that big spell.
There is, right? The reason maybe why they went into the Void is Jackie may have felt kind of helpless that last game. Like, we saw him on the Lifestealer, he had free farm. He was doing a pretty good job in my belief. His net worth was always pretty much the highest throughout the game, but on the Lifestealer he was getting kited, he was being controlled, and he really couldn't do anything to help out his team. Void, he'll feel like, I've got a Chrono, I can make big plays happen, you know, Void's very strong right now. Maybe that's just the idea here for Trust, and they didn't want to wait till the second ban phase because the Void probably would have been banned out. But like you said, it allows the counter picks to come out, and we've already got one in the Venge. Luckily, Trust, they do at least get rid of the Drow Ranger now, so you aren't going to have that Drow Venge combination. But I'd hate to say it, John, you have another combination that is possible for New Esports if they want to run it. The Arc Warden Venge is available.
10 seconds remaining.
Oh yeah, and that one is even more valuable here because you have the Phoenix Egg. You get the egg, you drop the bubble, and that egg will live a bit longer, especially once you hit the level 2 mark on the egg. The Snap's not going to be able to burst it down by herself. Some right clicks will need to fly out, and New Esports, they can punish severely well with that. And look at banouts. Beyond the Venge, they have to ban out the Beastmaster because of the reliance on that Faces Void Chrono. These are just bans that will allow certain things to slide through for New Esports. Like, if we assume this is a Phoenix on off instead, and a core Phoenix along with a Sport Venge, there's room there for, say, an Oracle. So you get a free disarm there to interrupt that Faces Void. You get to save anyone in that Chrono for a bit longer if you're not caught, and if you do get something like the Oracle, the Void will have to catch a Venge and an Oracle in the Chrono. You have to catch both supports, and chances are you won't catch both supports. It's just really difficult, especially with how New Esports have been spacing themselves out. We saw that in game 1. They were so scattered off, you couldn't even get Soulbind onto 2 heroes to get a good Doom. So it's a tricky spot for Trust. They do go with a Mirana. It's another long-range hitter to help them deal with the Phoenix Egg. Of course, the damage and control it gives you is pretty nice. What I wonder now is, how are they going to run that duo of Snap Mirana? Like, both of these heroes don't enjoy being in Pos 5, right? They need some initial farm, they need some initial EXP. And the prospect of a core Snap for Trust, I mean, we've seen it a lot from different teams. We've seen it a lot more from Bach, but it's not the best. Bach, and I believe it was Raging Potato as well. It doesn't bring too much inspiration if that is going to be a Snap core, and as a support duo, it's going to be difficult to get those initial levels. That's what MG.Trust has to watch out for here.
That's fair. I do wonder as well if New are going to go into that Arc Warden pickup, right? You pointed out the fact that you can magnetic field on the egg, and they just, you have to close the cap and kill it somehow. It's kind of disgusting to think about, right? Like, you've got a Snapbite to combo the Phoenix, but then magnetic field can make it so you can't even do that. It could be a very rough one if they do go down that route, but New Esports, for now at the very least, do go for the Sand King pick instead. That's fair, we have been seeing a bit of Sand King. It hasn't been very successful, right? The Sand King, it has been a bit off as of late. Whether they are going to run the core Phoenix or the core Sand King is now up for debate. You'd kind of hope it is going to be the core Sand King, because position 4 Sand King has looked really bad, as you just can't do anything up until you have that Blink Dagger up. But I'm sure it is probably going to be an offlane Sand King here for New Esports. MG.Trust, they're going to go into the Ember now, so just getting Fearless a hero that he wants to play, he feels comfortable on, and that might be the right way to do this.
Yeah, it definitely is. This is, again, a hero that does go up fast, so he can play a bit more active with the Ember Spirit early on. Not as much pressure to just sit back and farm. You can start farming heroes earlier, a lot more effectively. The hold from New Esports isn't the best, but it is also not too bad, especially the Burrow Strike. We've seen that really catch people out, especially when you do get it off from like a tree line, so that's something for MG.Trust to just weigh against. Just still have to be slightly cautious once the blink timing's ready there for New for their part. The Sand King in this case, I think it's still pretty darn good, not only for the team fight, but again, it's another way to deal with Chrono. You channel that epicenter outside when the Chrono's up, you Burrow Strike in, you're still gonna get the stun, you're still gonna get the damage off, and that's just another spell that MG.Trust will have to worry about. That's something Jackie has to be aware of, which means we might see a second item BKB here for the Void, just to be secure in the Chrono, which it's not the worst. At the same time, we've seen Voids forced to go BKB second item, and if you don't fight with a Chrono and you go second item BKB, you're not getting the maximum value from that item. So we'll see what Jackie opts for here, if he will want that early magic resist. But New Esports, oof, they're making it difficult, Mike. Like Gyrocopter as well coming out, so this Chrono now is really a big double-edged sword, right? If you're Capture Gyro not the Venge, swap this there, and the Gyro control the stealth. Gyro can fight outside that Chrono. You've got Gyro Revenge for added rage and Gyrocopter. For whatever reason that gives it, you've got that in play, so
works with the flag cannon.
Yeah, it works with that flag, and it's just really tricky now for MG.Trust. They've still got a good lineup. They have to play perfectly with the Chrono. A lot of pressure on Jackie this game to just be relentless. Every time Chrono's up, you gotta smoke, you gotta moonlight, find even a single target pick off, and snowball that way.
10 seconds
I still do like where Motivate's gone with this draft, right? Like, I realize you've got Venge Gyro now. I don't necessarily think that's going to be the strongest combination, because the Gyrocopter, I mean, we've seen it a couple times. It doesn't feel amazing. It hasn't had any love from Ice Folk from a long time, and it's kind of just been left to be itself in the corner, and once in a while you see the Gyrocopter picked up, but it's, you know, it takes a lot of farm to get online. Still, it looks like New Esports, they might run a mid-wind ranger now to set the pace, and obviously give the Gyrocopter some space to just do what it loves doing, which is farming. We'll see. The debut of the Gyrocopter throughout the BTS Pro Series, we'll see how effective it is going to be. Obviously, like you said with the Venge, it's going to be more effective than it would have been by itself. Perhaps with the Venge it is a lot more viable than it is by itself. Motivate now. One more pickup. It looks like they're lacking a Masaros hero in the offlane. Unless they are going to run a POS 3 Snapfire, which I kind of doubt. I think it should be something very different for Masaros. And well, you pointed out the tide, John. It is still there.
Yeah. Would be pretty good here. You know, it gives you setup for the Chrono, gives you follow-up for the Chrono. Laning isn't the most amazing. Like against a Gyrocopter, that's already a ranged hero. you're probably not going to pressure it as much as you'd want, and that might just be what MG.Trust is looking for. It's also an additional cooldown, and we already talked about the reliance on chrono. You would be piling on a timer on your team to try to maximize. You know, it makes it a little bit more, you know, tight. The execution has to be really tight if they do go with that Master Race tight, but you know, that's something MG.Trust has been super comfy with. They do go with the Abaddon in this game. Not quite sure entirely why. There's not much to break. Maybe preventing the Shackle from having as much impact as before. It's going to be the big one. Taking off Fire Spirits, I guess, is really good here for Master Race, so they can focus on the egg as needed. Beyond that, you could be a bit annoying in the off lane. We'll see how much Master Race does force that out. Of course, it is going to be the DDZ Wind Ranger, as you mentioned, so it's going to be a core wind down mid up against Fearless's Ember. I think Fearless should have a better time here. He can block out the power shots with his shield. He can clear out the wave just fine. Level 6 timing, very important. He just needs to watch Shackle plays. We've seen a lot of big ones come out in the last game from Barry. EDZ's gonna try to set his eyes there to get that control, and a better draft here for MG.Trust, but New Esports are looking pretty sharp too. We'll have to see what Yamate does with that gyro.
Yeah, we will. Should be a very, very fun match between these two, and I do like this this MG.Trust draft. Definitely a bit better than the last draft we saw for sure, but it's just a matter of whether they can make these big ultis work. Like, it's going to be important for Jackie to land these big chronos, which I'm sure he will, because we have seen him on the Void quite a few times. He does do some very good work, and more importantly,